I froze in the doorway. The key was still in my hand, but I couldn't move, because there, on her hands and knees in the grand foyer of my late mother's Victorian mansion, was my niece Emma. She was scrubbing the marble floor, her auburn hair falling across her face, wearing a gray uniform dress that looked 2 sizes too big. And on the back, in faded letters, it read, Bradford Estate Staff. My brother Michael's voice cut through from the dining room. Emma, I told you to have this floor spotless before lunch. We have guests coming. She didn't look up, just kept scrubbing, her thin shoulders hunched forward. I noticed her hands were raw and red. I hadn't seen Emma in 5 years, not since I'd left for Singapore to manage the Asian expansion of my company. My mother had passed away 3 years ago, and I'd flown back for the funeral, but Emma had been away at college, according to Michael. I'd sent her cards, money for tuition, gifts for birthdays. She'd never responded, but Michael said she was just busy with her studies. Now I understood why. Emma, I said quietly. Her head snapped up. Those green eyes, so much like her mother's, went wide with shock. The scrub brush fell from her hand and clattered across the wet floor. Uncle Thomas, her voice cracked, you're not supposed to be here until tomorrow. Changed my flight. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. Stand up, sweetheart. She scrambled to her feet, wiping her wet hands on her uniform. That's when I saw the bruises on her wrists. Old ones faded to yellow, and newer ones dark purple. What's going on here? I kept my voice level, but my hands were shaking. Thomas! Michael appeared in the doorway, his face splitting into a wide smile that didn't reach his eyes. Brother, what a surprise. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow. Clearly, I looked from him to Emma, who'd gone pale. Why is my niece dressed like a servant in her own home? Michael's smile tightened. Her home? Thomas, I think there's been some confusion. Mother left the house to me. Emma has been. Well, we've been kind enough to let her stay here while she figures out her future. Let her stay? I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I'd taken of Mother's will before I left 5 years ago. I'd always been the careful one. According to this, Mother left the house in trust for Emma. You were named as trustee until she turned 21. Emma's 22 now, Michael. The smile vanished from his face. There were circumstances. Emma signed papers. What papers? Uncle Thomas, please. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Don't. It's fine. I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. She was shaking, and there were dark circles under her eyes, and she looked like she hadn't had a decent meal in months. Emma, go upstairs and pack a bag, I said. You're coming with me. She's not going anywhere. Jennifer appeared behind Michael, her arms crossed. My sister-in-law had always been cold, but now there was something cruel in her eyes. We have a legal arrangement. Emma works for her room and board. She signed a contract. A contract. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. She was 17 when Mother died. Any contract signed before she was 18 would be void, and any signed after would be under duress if you were her legal guardians. Michael's face reddened. You don't know what you're talking about. Emma was difficult, ungrateful. We took her in when Emily died, gave her a home. My sister Emily died when Emma was 12. I cut him off. Mother took Emma in. You barely visited. And now I find Emma scrubbing floors in her own house, wearing a servant's uniform, with bruises on her wrists. We're going to have a very serious conversation about this, Michael. But first, Emma is leaving with me. If she leaves, she gets nothing. Jennifer's voice was sharp. No house, no inheritance, nothing. We'll make sure of that. Emma made a small, defeated sound. Actually, I said calmly, if she leaves, I'll be making some calls. To the police about those bruises. To a lawyer about financial exploitation of a minor and now a young adult. To the IRS about whether you've been paying Emma wages for this work arrangement. And to the Portland Tribune because I think they'd be very interested in how the Bradford family has been treating Emily's orphaned daughter. The silence that followed was profound. Get your things, Emma, I said quietly. I'll wait right here. She looked at Michael, then at Jennifer. Whatever she saw in their faces made her decision for her. She nodded once and hurried toward the stairs. You're making a mistake, Michael said. You don't know what she's like. She's lazy, ungrateful. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. I'll be back tomorrow with lawyers. We're going to sort through every document, every piece of paper related to this house and Mother's estate. And Michael? If I find out you've been stealing from Emma, I won't just sue you. I'll make sure everyone in Portland knows exactly what kind of man you are. He opened his mouth to respond, but a sound from upstairs stopped us all. Music. Piano music, but not from a recording. Someone was playing, and playing brilliantly. Chopin, I thought, though I'd never been good with classical pieces. Michael's face went white. "Lucas, no! Stop that right now!" But the music continued, flowing through the house like water. It was beautiful and heartbreaking, played with a skill that seemed impossible. "Who's Lucas?" I asked. "My son." Jennifer's voice was tight. "He's supposed to be doing his homework, not wasting time on that piano." "That's not wasting time. That's extraordinary talent." "It's a distraction," Michael snapped. "The boy needs to focus on his grades, on getting into a good business school, not on silly dreams about music." The piano suddenly stopped. Footsteps thundered down the stairs, and a teenage boy appeared. He was thin, with dark hair and his father's eyes, but there was something haunted in his face. "Sorry, Dad," he mumbled. "I forgot Emma's old piano was still here. I just wanted to get back to your room." Michael's voice was cold. "We'll discuss this later." Lucas's eyes met mine for just a second. There was a desperate plea in them before he turned and ran back upstairs. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs with a small duffel bag. She looked at the spot where Lucas had been standing, then at me. "Ready?" I asked. She nodded and came down the stairs, moving quickly, like she was afraid Michael might physically stop her. As we walked to my car, I could feel them watching from the window. I put Emma's bag in the trunk and opened the passenger door for her. "Uncle Thomas," she said as I started the engine, "there's something you should know. About Lucas." "I'm listening." "He's amazing. At piano, I mean. He's been playing since he was 6. And he's just he's gifted. Really gifted. But Michael and Jennifer hate it. They think it's a waste of time. They've forbidden him from applying to any music schools. They want him to go to Wharton, like Michael did. And what does Lucas want? He wants to go to Juilliard. He got accepted, Uncle Thomas. Full scholarship. But they won't let him go. They told him if he chose music over business, they'd disown him. I thought about that haunted look in the boy's eyes. How old is Lucas? 16. He turns 17 next month. Still a minor, then. Still under their control. "Tell me everything," I said. "Start from the beginning. From when Mother died." So she did. And with every word, my anger grew colder and more focused. Mother had indeed left the house to Emma in trust. But when Emma turned 18, Michael had presented her with papers that he said were standard trust documents that she needed to sign to take possession. Emma, grieving and alone, had signed without reading them carefully. Those papers had somehow transferred control back to Michael for management purposes. For the past 4 years, Michael and Jennifer had treated Emma like an employee in her own home. They'd taken away her bedroom and given her a tiny room in the attic. They'd made her cook, clean, and serve them and their guests. They'd told anyone who asked that Emma was staying with them while she figured out her life. "Why didn't you leave?" I asked. "Why didn't you call me?" Emma's voice was small. "They said you wouldn't believe me. That you'd think I was just a spoiled kid who didn't want to work. And they said if I left, they'd sell the house immediately, and I'd never get it back. It was the last thing I had of Mom's, Uncle Thomas. I couldn't let them take it." "And your art?" I asked, remembering the paintings I'd seen in her room when she was younger. Emma had always been talented. She laughed bitterly. "I'm not allowed to paint anymore. Jennifer said it was too messy and pretentious. All my supplies are locked in the basement." We drove in silence for a moment. I was staying at the Heathman Hotel downtown, and I pulled into the parking garage before I spoke again. "Emma, I'm going to fix this. All of it. But I need you to be honest with me about everything. The bruises on your wrists, how did you get them?" She pulled her sleeves down. "Sometimes, if I didn't clean something well enough, or if dinner wasn't ready on time, Jennifer would. She'd grab me, drag me to show me what I'd done wrong. Michael never hit me, but he never stopped her either." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "We're going to document everything. Photos, written statements, dates if you remember them, and then we're going to take all of it to a lawyer. I got Emma checked into her own room at the hotel, ordered room service for both of us, and spent the evening listening to her story in more detail. She had documents too, hidden in the lining of her duffel bag, photos of the bruises from over the years, copies of the papers Michael had made her sign, text messages from Jennifer with cruel instructions and demands. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Robert Chen was the best in Portland, and he agreed to see us immediately. After reviewing everything, Robert leaned back in his chair. This is textbook financial exploitation and emotional abuse. The papers Michael had her sign likely won't hold up in court, especially given her age and circumstances when she signed them. But litigation could take years. What's the alternative? I asked. We can threaten to go public, file a police report about the physical abuse, contact the Bar Association about Michael's conduct. He's still a member, even though he doesn't practice anymore. And we can freeze the house under an emergency court order while we sort this out. Do it, I said. All of it. There's one more thing, Emma said quietly. Lucas. Is there any way to help him? Robert considered. If he's being denied a legitimate opportunity for education and a full scholarship to Juilliard, certainly qualifies, there might be grounds for emancipation. But he'd have to petition for it himself. He won't, Emma said. He's too afraid of them. I thought about the desperate look in Lucas's eyes. Maybe he just needs someone to show him there's another way. That afternoon, I went back to the mansion. Michael opened the door, and his face was hard. Robert Chen will be filing papers tomorrow morning, I said without preamble. Emergency custody transfer for the house. Investigation into your financial management of the trust, and a police report about the physical abuse. You have 24 hours to vacate Emma's property. You can't do this. I already am. But I'm here about something else. Your son. His expression shifted to surprise. Lucas? What about him? I understand he got into Juilliard. That's none of your business. It is if you're destroying that boy's future out of your own ego. I've looked into it, Michael. Lucas isn't just good. He's exceptional. There are videos of him playing at local competitions. I found them online. The ones you probably don't know exist. He could have a real career in music. He needs a real career in business. Something stable, something respectable. Like yours? I couldn't keep the contempt from my voice. You haven't worked in 3 years, Michael. You've been living off mother's money and Emma's inheritance. That's not a career. That's parasitism. His face flushed red. Get out. Gladly. But think about this. Lucas is 16. In 2 years, he'll be 18, and he'll make his own choices. If you force him into business school, if you kill his dream because of your own insecurities, he will never forgive you. I've seen it before. You'll lose your son long before he turns 18. You don't have children. You don't understand. No, I don't have children. But I had a sister who was forced to give up her dreams because mother thought they weren't practical. Emily spent her whole life wondering what might have been if she'd pursued her art. Is that what you want for Lucas? Something flickered across his face. Doubt, maybe? Or guilt? Just think about it, I said, and turned to leave. Wait. Michael's voice stopped me. You really think he's that good? I think he could be one of the greats. But only if you let him. Over the next week, things moved quickly. Robert filed all the papers as promised. The court granted an emergency order giving Emma temporary control of the house. Michael and Jennifer were given 72 hours to vacate. But I also did something else. I contacted Juilliard directly and explained the situation. They confirmed Lucas's acceptance and scholarship was still valid if he chose to attend that fall. Then I arranged something special. I rented out a small gallery in the Pearl District for an evening. It was normally used for art exhibitions, but I convinced the owner to let us use it for a different purpose. Then I went to the mansion one last time. Michael and Jennifer were packing, their faces tight with anger, but I wasn't there for them. Lucas, I called up the stairs. Can you come down for a minute? He appeared, wary. What do you want? I need your help with something. Emma's been through a lot, and I think she needs something to remind her that good things can still happen. I was thinking about organizing a small event at a gallery. Nothing big, just friends and family. Maybe some music to make it nice. Would you be willing to play? His eyes widened. You want me to perform? Only if you want to. I know your parents have rules about. I'll do it. The words came out fast, almost desperate. When? Friday night, 7 o'clock. Pearl District Gallery on Northwest 13th. Michael appeared in the hallway. Lucas is busy on Friday. Actually, I'm not, Lucas said, and there was something new in his voice. Defiance. I'll be there. I spent the rest of the week working with Emma. We broke the locks on the basement door and found all her art supplies, plus dozens of canvases she'd painted over the years and hidden away. They were remarkable, expressive, emotional, technically skilled. Emma, these are incredible. Why didn't you show anyone? She shrugged. Jennifer said they were childish, that I was wasting my time when I should be learning useful skills. Do you still want to paint? For the first time since I'd found her, I saw something spark in her eyes, more than anything. Then paint something for Friday. Whatever you want. She looked at me with confusion. Friday? Trust me. I'd also been making other calls. To Mother's old friends, to Emma's former teachers, to people in Portland's art community. I told them I was hosting a small exhibition for my niece, a talented young artist who'd been unable to pursue her work for several years. Several said they'd come. On Friday evening, the gallery was transformed. Emma had created 3 new paintings that week, working almost around the clock. They hung on the walls alongside the best of her older work. They showed pain and resilience, darkness and light. They told her story without words. The piano had been set up in the center of the gallery. Lucas arrived early, his hands shaking as he touched the keys. I haven't performed in 3 years, he admitted. Dad forbade it after my last competition. Then it's time, I said simply. People started arriving. Mother's friends, Emma's old art teachers, local gallery owners I'd contacted, more than I'd expected. Emma stood near her paintings, overwhelmed and nervous in a new dress I'd bought her. Then Michael and Jennifer walked in. Emma grabbed my arm. What are they doing here? I invited them, I said quietly. They need to see this. Michael's face was unreadable as he looked at Emma's paintings. Jennifer's was set in its usual expression of disdain. Lucas stood frozen by the piano, all the color drained from his face. I walked to the center of the gallery and raised my voice slightly. Thank you all for coming. We're here tonight to celebrate 2 remarkable young talents who've been hidden away for far too long. First, I'd like you to see the work of Emma Bradford, my niece. She's been painting since she was 8 years old, and despite not having access to her supplies for 4 years, she's created these pieces in just 1 week. People moved closer to the paintings, studying them. I heard murmurs of appreciation, saw heads nodding. And now, I continued, I'd like you to hear Lucas Bradford play. Lucas is 16 years old, and he was recently accepted to Juilliard with a full scholarship. This will be one of his first public performances in 3 years. I looked at Michael. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched at his sides, but he didn't leave. Lucas sat at the piano. His hands hovered over the keys for a moment. Then he began to play. It was the same Chopin piece I'd heard at the mansion, but somehow it sounded different here. More free, more passionate. Lucas poured everything into it all, his frustration, his fear, his hope. The gallery fell completely silent except for the music. When he finished, there was a moment of absolute stillness. Then everyone started clapping. Not polite applause, but genuine, enthusiastic appreciation. Lucas's eyes were wet with tears. He looked at his father, and I saw the question there. Do you understand now? Michael's face had changed. The hardness was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite read. He walked toward Lucas slowly, and I tensed, ready to intervene. But Michael stopped in front of his son and said quietly, That was extraordinary. Lucas stared at him. Dad? I was wrong. Michael's voice cracked. I've been so focused on what I thought your life should be that I didn't see what it could be. You're brilliant, Lucas. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand that. Jennifer made a disgusted sound and walked out. But Michael stayed. A woman approached Emma, introducing herself as the director of a local arts program. These are remarkable, she said, gesturing at the paintings. Have you considered applying to an arts program? I think you'd be a strong candidate for several scholarships. Emma looked at me. tears streaming down her face. I nodded encouragement. "I'd like that," she whispered. That night, after everyone had left, Emma, Lucas, Michael, and I sat in the gallery among the paintings. "I need to say something," Michael began. He looked at Emma. "What Jennifer and I did to you was unforgivable. I told myself we were helping you, that you needed structure and discipline. But the truth is, I was angry. Angry that Mother left you the house. Angry that you reminded me of Emily and all the ways I'd failed as a brother. I took that out on you. And I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am genuinely sorry." Emma didn't respond immediately. When she did, her voice was steady. "I appreciate the apology, but I don't think I can forgive you yet. Maybe someday, but not now. You and Jennifer hurt me for 4 years. You made me believe I was worthless, that my art was worthless, that I deserved to be treated like a servant in my own home." Michael nodded, his eyes on the floor. "I understand, but," Emma continued, looking at Lucas, "I do think you're making the right choice about Lucas. Let him go to Juilliard. Let him be who he's meant to be." "I will," Michael promised. He looked at his son. "We'll need to talk more about this, about everything. But Lucas, if Juilliard is what you want, then we'll make it work." Lucas's face transformed with hope. "Really? Really?" Michael left shortly after, walking out into the Portland night, like a man who'd lost something he hadn't known he valued. 3 months later, I stood in Emma's new apartment, her real apartment, in the mansion that was legally hers again. The house had been professionally cleaned, repaired, and redecorated. Emma's studio took up the entire 3rd floor, with north-facing windows that gave her perfect light for painting. She'd been accepted into the Pacific Northwest College of Art with a partial scholarship. The rest I was helping with, gladly. Lucas had moved into the mansion too, not because he had to, but because Michael had asked Emma if Lucas could stay with her during his senior year of high school. Michael and Jennifer were divorcing. It turned out that Jennifer's cruelty had extended beyond Emma, and Michael had finally opened his eyes to what his marriage had become. "Uncle Thomas," Emma said, putting down her paintbrush, "I've been working on something for you, to say thank you." She turned the canvas around. It was a portrait of me, but not just me. Behind me, she'd painted shadows of other figures. Mother, Emily, Lucas. People I'd protected, people I'd loved, people I'd fought for. "It's called The Guardian," she said, "because that's what you are. You came back when we needed you most." I felt my throat tighten. "Emma, I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner. If I'd known—" "You're here now," she interrupted. "That's what matters." From downstairs I heard the piano. Lucas was practicing, preparing for his audition for Juilliard's summer program. The music floated up through the house, filling it with beauty. "You know what the best part is?" Emma asked. "This house used to feel like a prison. Now it feels like home again." I looked around at the bright, airy space, at Emma's paintings covering the walls, at the life and color and hope that had returned to this place. "Your mother would be so proud of you," I said, "and so would your grandmother." Emma smiled, and for the first time since I'd found her on her knees in that foyer, it was a real smile, one that reached her eyes and lit up her whole face. "I know," she said simply. "I can feel them here. I think they've been here all along, waiting for someone to set us free." She picked up her paintbrush again, and I watched as she added more color to the canvas. Outside, Portland was alive with summer evening light. Inside, 2 young people who'd been trapped for years were finally pursuing the dreams they'd been told were impossible. And I thought about my sister Emily, who'd given up her art, about my mother who'd tried to make amends by leaving Emma this house, about all the dreams that get buried because someone decides they're not practical or respectable or good enough. Sometimes, I realized, the greatest gift you can give someone isn't money or property or even love. Sometimes it's simply permission to be who they were always meant to be. Lucas's music swelled, reaching a crescendo. Emma added a final stroke of gold to her painting. And I stood there in that house that had seen so much pain and was now witnessing so much healing, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The next morning, I got a call from Robert. The legal case against Michael had been settled. He'd agreed to pay Emma restitution for the 4 years of unpaid labor, plus damages for emotional distress. It wasn't about the money Emma had told me she didn't want to bleed him dry, but it was about acknowledgement, about justice. "There's one more thing," Robert said. "Michael's asked if he can attend Emma's first official gallery showing next month. He wants to bring Lucas's acceptance letter from Juilliard framed." I relayed the message to Emma. She thought about it for a long moment. "Tell him he can come," she finally said. "But he stays for the whole thing. And he listens when people talk about the paintings. Really listens. I'll let him know." The gallery showing was everything Emma had dreamed of. Her paintings sold. Gallery owners expressed interest in her future work, and the local press wrote a beautiful piece about the young artist who'd overcome adversity to pursue her passion. Michael came, as promised. He stood in front of a painting Emma had titled Captive, a self-portrait of her in that gray servant's uniform, but with bright colors exploding from her hands like she was breaking free. "I see it now," he said to me quietly. "What I did to her. What I almost did to Lucas. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "I've been looking into art therapy programs, places where abuse survivors can use creativity to heal. I thought maybe I could volunteer, help fund some programs, try to make up for what I did, even if it's just a little bit." It wasn't enough. It could never be enough. But it was a start. 6 months later, I sat in the audience at Juilliard's winter concert series. Lucas was performing as a guest artist, the youngest person invited to play that season. He'd enrolled in their summer program and had been so exceptional that they'd invited him back for several master classes during his senior year. Emma sat beside me, sketching on a pad. She was documenting Lucas's journey in a series of paintings for his graduation gift. When Lucas walked onto that stage and sat at the grand piano, I thought about the scared, haunted boy I'd first seen at the mansion. This was a different person. Confident, passionate, free. He played Rachmaninoff that night, and it was transcendent. After the concert, we met Lucas backstage. He was surrounded by people congratulating him, professors and students alike. But when he saw Emma and me, he broke away and came straight to us. "You came," he said, and hugged us both. "Wouldn't have missed it," Emma said. "You were incredible. I couldn't have done this without you two, without Uncle Thomas coming back, without you letting me stay at the house, without his voice broke, without someone finally believing in me." Michael hadn't come to New York. Lucas had invited him, but Michael had declined, saying it was too soon, that Lucas needed to have this triumph without his father's presence complicating it. I thought that was probably wise. But as we stood there in the backstage area of one of the world's most prestigious music schools, with Lucas's future bright before him, I realized something. This story wasn't really about me being a hero. It wasn't about me swooping in to save the day. It was about two young people who'd survived years of being told they weren't good enough, weren't worth investing in, weren't allowed to dream, and who, when given the smallest opportunity, the tiniest bit of support, had flourished beyond anyone's expectations. Sometimes all people need is someone to see them, really see them, for who they are and who they could be. Emma and Lucas had always been brilliant. They'd always been talented. They'd always been worthy. They just needed someone to remind them of that truth. And now, watching Lucas shine on that stage in New York, and knowing Emma was preparing for her second gallery show back in Portland, I understood what my mother had been trying to tell me when she left Emma that house. Home isn't just a building. It's the place where you're allowed to be yourself, where your gifts are celebrated, not suppressed, where you're loved for who you are, not who someone thinks you should be. Emma had found that home again. Lucas was building his. And me? I'd found my purpose in helping them reclaim what had been stolen. As we left the concert hall that night, Lucas said, "I'm playing at Carnegie Hall next year. Full concert. They've asked me to be part of their Emerging Artists series." Emma squeezed his hand. "We'll be there. Front row." "Actually," Lucas said, and there was mischief in his eyes, "I was hoping Emma might create the poster art for it. They said I could choose the artist." Emma's eyes widened. "Seriously?" "Seriously. You're the best artist I know. And besides, we're a team, right? We got through the worst together. Might as well celebrate the best together, too." I watched them walk ahead of me, these two young people who'd been through so much and come out stronger, who'd been told their dreams didn't matter and had proven everyone wrong. And I thought, this is what victory looks like. Not just justice served or wrongs righted, but futures reclaimed, dreams resurrected, lives lived fully and freely. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. Sometimes you have to leave home to understand what home should be. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get to help someone else find their way back to themselves. That night, as I flew back to Portland, I looked out the window at the lights below and thought about Emma and Lucas, about Michael, trying to rebuild his relationship with his son, about Jennifer, who'd left Portland entirely and was out of their lives for good. I thought about my sister Emily and how proud she'd be of her daughter, about my mother, whose final gift had been the house that became Emma's sanctuary and launching pad. And I thought about all the other Emmas and Lucases out there, young people with extraordinary gifts being told they're not good enough, being exploited, controlled, diminished. I couldn't save them all, but I'd save two, and those two would go on to create beauty in the world, to inspire others, to prove that talent and passion and dreams matter. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything.